The words followed her everywhere, spoken plainly and without shame, as if they were describing the weather instead of a person. "You are too big for a wife," Naya heard it in the market when she passed by with grain sacks on her shoulders. She heard it in the laughter that cut short whenever she turned around. She heard it even in the silence of her own home, where no one ever came to ask about her future. In the village near the red desert hills, women were expected to be small, soft and easily overlooked. Naya had grown tall and strong, her body shaped by long days of labor and responsibility after her parents died. She carried water from far springs, repaired broken fences, and stood between her younger siblings and the hardships of the world. None of that mattered to the people who judged her worth by how little space she took up. She tried to make herself smaller. She kept her eyes lowered, her voice quiet, her shoulders slightly bent. But strength does not disappear just because others wish it would. Each rejection hardened into something heavy inside her, a belief that maybe she truly was made wrong. At night, as the desert wind pressed against the walls, she wondered if her life would be nothing more than work and loneliness, if she would fade without ever being chosen. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the land in copper and gold, Naya walked beyond the village to gather firewood. Her arms ached, but the familiar weight was comforting. That was when she noticed strangers at the edge of the valley, Apache travelers moving carefully along an old route. The village kept its distance, watching with nervous curiosity. When a small child stumbled near the fire pit and began to cry, no one moved. Without thinking, Naya stepped forward. She lifted the child with ease and calmed him, her voice steady and warm. Among the travelers was a scout named Taza. He watched her closely, not with surprise or fear, but with recognition. His gaze held no mockery, no discomfort. He saw her strength as something natural, something balanced. In that moment, as the desert wind shifted and the child smiled again, Naya felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. For the first time, she was not being measured by what she lacked, but seen for what she was. The travelers remained in the valley longer than expected, their camp set just beyond the village where the land dipped toward the canyon. Naya noticed how differently they moved, how no one seemed rushed to prove strength or hide it. Among her own people, strength was something men displayed loudly, and women were expected to disguise. With the Apache travelers, it simply existed, like the wind or the stone beneath their feet. Taza spoke to her when paths crossed, not with curiosity sharpened by judgment, but with calm respect. He asked about the land, the water routes, the seasons. He listened when she answered, as if her knowledge mattered. On the second morning, dark clouds gathered suddenly thick and low. Rain was rare but unforgiving when it came. By midday, the canyon filled with rushing water, cutting off several villages and travelers who had gone ahead to trade herbs and tools. Panic spread quickly. People crowded the edge, shouting names, arguing over what to do. A few strong men tried to cross, stepping into the current, only to be forced back by the power of the water. Fear settled heavily in the air. Naya watched in silence, measuring the river, the rocks beneath the surface, the way the water curved around the bend. She had crossed dangerous ground before, not for praise, but because someone had to. Without waiting for permission, she found a rope, secured it to a sturdy tree, and tied it firmly around her waist. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some anxious, some doubtful, but she stepped forward anyway. The water pushed hard against her legs, cold and relentless, yet she moved carefully, planting each step with patience and focus. When she reached the other side, relief broke through the shouts. One by one, she helped others cross, guiding children, steadying elders, never losing her balance. By the time the last person reached safety, her arms trembled with exhaustion. The crowd fell quiet, unsure how to react. Praise did not come easily to those who had spent years dismissing her. Taza broke the silence. His voice was calm but carried weight. He spoke of how strength was meant to serve, not to impress, and how hiding it weakened everyone. His words lingered even after the storm eased. Later, as evening settled, he sat near Naya and thanked her, not as a hero, but as an equal. For the first time, she spoke openly of being unwanted, of carrying labels that never fit. He did not interrupt. He did not argue. He simply listened, and in that listening, something inside Naya began to shift, like ground preparing for new growth. When the storm passed, the valley felt changed, as if the land itself had witnessed something important and was waiting to see what the people would do next. The travelers prepared to leave at sunrise, tightening packs and checking the trail that now glistened with damp earth. The village gathered to offer thanks, though many spoke awkwardly, unused to acknowledging the woman they had ignored for so long. Their eyes followed Naya differently now, measuring her not with doubt but with uncertainty, as if they were seeing her clearly for the first time and did not yet know what to do with that truth. Taza approached her as the morning light stretched across the canyon. He did not speak of what she had proven or how she had changed their view. Instead, he spoke of choices. He told her that among his people, strength carried responsibility but also freedom, and that no one was forced into a shape that did not fit them. He invited her to walk with the travelers if she wished, not as someone being saved, but as someone valued. There was no urgency in his voice, no pressure, only respect. Naya looked back toward the village, the homes she had held together, the paths she had walked alone for years. She felt no bitterness now, only clarity. Leaving might have been easier, but staying meant something different. It meant standing where she was and refusing to be made small again. She thanked Taza and chose to remain, not because she feared the unknown, but because she finally knew her worth did not depend on escape or approval. As the travelers disappeared into the distance, the village slowly returned to its rhythm, yet something had shifted. People sought Naya out for advice about crops and weather. Children followed her, imitating her steady walk, their eyes bright with admiration instead of fear. When disputes arose, her voice carried weight, not because she demanded it, but because it was trusted. She no longer bent her shoulders or lowered her gaze. Her strength did not need to be explained or defended. It simply existed, woven into daily life, shaping it quietly and firmly. The words that once wounded her lost their power, fading into irrelevance. Naya never became what the village once imagined a wife should be. She became something far more important. She became herself, fully and without apology. And in time, the story people told about her was no longer about size or rejection, but about the woman who stood steady when the river rose, and taught others how to see power where they had once refused to look.